In this series, I've been attempting to trade my way up to something exciting, starting with this £5 thrift shop camera find, a Canon Sure Shot Supreme. If you remember, the last trade was the 7th in the series, which got me my first Leica, a Barnack Leica 3A to be precise, whilst also leaving me with just over £280 in the kitty. The Leica took a while to move, but eventually notched up £135 and 9p. It's not the biggest turn this time, but it all helps, my new total being £416 and 96p. Not a bad sum considering the £5 initial outlay and only 7 trades in. It's starting to get into the realms of something decent now. So what to buy after the Leica? Well, how about a few? I picked up this next lot for £365 and 38p. There are 3 cameras here. The first is probably one of the cheapest Leicas money can buy, a digital Leica called a Xa2. It's not really a Leica at all, but in fact a rebranded Panasonic compact point and shoot from 2007. It's a 7.2 megapixel Lumix DMC FX30 under the hood. Whilst not the sort of camera I'd waste time reviewing, it's in excellent shape and came with a few nice accessories to bolster its value. It's already sold on eBay for £112 and 58p. Next in the lot was another Leica, this time a slightly more interesting 35mm electronic compact called a Leica C1. It came out in 1999 and is a simple yet elegant point and shoot with a 38 to 105mm Vario Elma zoom lens, which I believe is f4 to f10.5 across all focal lengths, although it's not marked anywhere on the camera, so clearly they didn't want to shout about it. It's almost entirely auto, with a few extra bells and whistles, like a built-in flash, exposure compensation, and a imprint feature. I believe it's also effectively a rebadged Panasonic, but to my surprise it's actually very Leica-esque, clearly inspired by the Bauhaus designs of Leica's earlier cameras. It feels relatively good in the hand, with a metal construction, but with a top and bottom plate that are slightly rubberized, unfortunately with that stuff that goes a bit sticky over time. It came in its original box with manuals and a couple of different case options. The final camera in the lot was the one that appealed to me the most. It's a tiny 1980s 35mm point and shoot called an Olympus Xa2. This one came in this leery red colour, complete with its original box and manuals and screw-in flash. It features a fixed 35mm f3.5 lens, which is manually focused using a zone focusing tab to the side of the lens. It's auto exposure with almost nothing in the way of additional control. A buddy of mine happened to be around when the lot arrived, so we went out together and shot some side-by-side images to compare the C1 and the Xa2. I started out with the Xa2. I have to say it's a convenient little thing, easily pocketable, especially with the flash detached, and very light to carry. I found the zone focusing a little annoying. Unless you look at the front of the camera between shots, it's very easy to forget which of the zones is selected. It would have been great if there was some indication displayed in the finder. That viewfinder is surprisingly large and bright, but on reviewing some of the images, the lack of any form of parallax assistance really shows. It'd be very easy to crop someone's head off when shooting at closer distances. The 35mm f3.5 lens, which the Xa2 is most famous for, is sharp, but in truth I've seen a lot sharper. It is very quiet in operation, particularly the shutter, which is barely audible at all, so would lend itself well to discreet street shooting. All in all, the Xa2 wasn't a bad experience, but if you're looking for a light, bright, sharp and cheap zone focus auto exposure point and shoot, then I would be more inclined to recommend Agfa's superb Optima Sensor flash. It's cheaper, faster and better in almost every regard. Next up was the Leica C1. Obviously the tacky rubber top and bottom plate was annoying, but other than that it was very convenient to carry. I've read that other users find it to be a little slow in operation, slow to zoom and slow to focus. I don't think it was too bad at all. The focus seemed snappy enough and the zoom's a nice touch. The biggest upset for me was the viewfinder. It's crap, tiny and not particularly bright. It left me feeling uncertain if it snapped focus correctly. On reviewing the images I was pleasantly surprised. It had focused correctly every time and the images were really very sharp indeed, much more so than the Xa2. Exposure seemed to be almost always bang on, with decent resolution and contrast. It has a fairly noisy electronic film advance that may put off some street shooters, but with the reach that can be achieved with that excellent lens, you perhaps don't need to get so close to your subject that they would hear it. All in all, the C1 was a surprising hit. I put the C1 and the Xa2 on eBay. So far I've only sold the Leica C1 for a tidy £256 and 2p, which with the takings from the digital C-Lux already leaves me £3 up on the lot, with the Olympus Xa2 still to sell. As always, I'll let you know how I get on in my next trading up video.